another Pokemon Go Fest in the books, and damn, it was a blast. Most of the feedback I've seen has been overwhelmingly positive, but nothing is perfect, which is why I'm going to count down my 5 biggest positives and 5 biggest negatives from Pokemon Go Fest 2023. Number 1. The first hour spawns were ass. Yes, you heard that correctly. The spawns during the first hour were complete ass, and this is actually a good thing. The start of these bigger events can make people feel completely overwhelmed with an influx of research, collection challenges, incenses, star pieces, lucky eggs, raids, opening gifts to stock up on eggs, and all while the spawns start popping off. Which is why seeing a biome pool that included the likes of Wurmple, Clefairy, Skitty, and Luvdisc meant that you could take your time, take a breath, and make all your preparations without having to worry about missing anything. But speaking of the spawns, this also leads to my first complaint. Number 1. The spawns. Listen, I get it. You simply can't have an event featuring more than 50 unique spawns and have all of them be rare or cool. There needs to be a healthy mix, but all things considered, it's still frustrating to see some of what was included. Pokemon Go Fest is a time to hunt not only brand new shinies, but those shinies that you may not have gotten when they were initially released. For example, many players probably didn't have a shiny Remoraid, and with it being a rare spawn, this was their opportunity to get one. Now, which spawns you need will depend entirely on the player's experiences, but that still doesn't excuse things like all of the Pokemon with perma-boosted shiny odds being included in GoFest. Spawns like Scyther and Lickitung, whose shinies have always been boosted and who are frequently seen in raids or as PvP rewards, don't feel like much of a treat when they're taking up your map. It would have been nice to see more Pokemon that you see less frequently and are more challenging to hunt, like Phanpy or Combee. But speaking of rarer spawns, that leads to my next compliment. Number 2. Less unknown. Again, you heard that correctly. There seemed to be less unknown spawning off of Incense, and I'm glad for it. I know Unknown is an absurdly rare Pokemon in Pokemon Go, but it really isn't all that special in the grand scheme of things. So while you may see YouTubers losing their minds over getting a shiny one, I simply don't care. I have 4 shiny Unknown letters and 0 interest in ever attaining a full alphabet. It really isn't all that special. And for Pokemon Go Fest, it was a treat to not have my 16 hours of Incense endlessly spitting out tiny letters, as has been the case in years past. But while I saw that as an improvement, what certainly wasn't was my next complaint. Number 2. Raid timers. As mentioned above, GoFest can lead to a fair amount of stress, mostly caused by FOMO or fear of missing out. You don't want to miss that awesome Pokemon because you were activating a star piece or opening up gifts. And the single biggest time sink for this is raids, due to there being a lobby with a 2-minute timer, followed by a raid, followed by several graphics, followed by catching the Pokemon. Recently, Niantic added a feature to raids where players could say they're ready, and the raid would begin without having to wait in the lobby for 120 seconds. But this is Niantic, so how did they screw it up? Well, they made the feature only available if there was more than one person in the lobby. So if you're raiding by yourself, you still have to wait the full 2 minutes. It's actually impressive how Niantic is able to screw things like this up so consistently. Every time they roll out a new feature, even when it's something simple that the community has been asking for years, they somehow find a way to ruin it. Like if Niantic opened a hot dog stand, they would only have hamburger buns. And I think it's important to note here that raid passes are one of exactly 2 things that Niantic sells. So creating a system that makes people not want to buy one of your 2 products is spectacularly incompetent.
You blew it, boy! You really blew it!
People are not going to miss out on 2 minutes worth of shiny spawns for a Carbink, Niantic. But speaking of shiny spawns, that leads to my next compliment. Number 3. Shiny rates. As you may have seen in YouTuber thumbnails, the shiny rates for Pokemon Go Fest 2023 were incredible. Based on my experience, I think it was the first time that the global event had the same rates as their in-person counterparts. There's a glitch in the game where if a Pokemon is shiny and the habitat changes, whatever that spawn changes into will still be shiny. So if you get a shiny and you don't really care about it, you can wait until the habitat changes and re-roll it for the chance to get something better. In past events, I have never been able to do this, but during Pokemon Go Fest, I was able to do it every single hour. 1 hour, I re-rolled a shiny Wurmple into a shiny Beldum. I don't have any definitive proof, but the shiny rate definitely felt like it was closer to Community Day odds than previous Go Fests. But speaking of improved shiny spawns, that leads me to my next complaint. Number 3. Pikachu. Yes, I know he is the captain of the flagship. I know that wherever the Pokemon Company is promoting Pokemon, there is a 100% chance it will involve Pikachu. But I have one question. How many is too many? With the crowned Pikachus at GoFest, there are more than 50 Pikachus wearing some kind of costume in this game, and we have now reached the point where they can change the colors of a few pixels on 4 different sprites and consider them each a distinct Pokemon. I said before that I enjoyed seeing less unknown spawns, but this desperately needs to be applied to Pikachu. Damn near every single event we see him dressed up in something or other. This is just lazy. You aren't making anything unique about the multiple ones featured in the same event. Niantic, put the rat down. And speaking of putting things down, that leads me to my next compliment. Number 4, legendary catchwords. As mentioned before, the biggest time sink in the game are raids, which is often exacerbated by the legendary Pokemon and their absurdly low catch rate. So Niantic made the very smart and player-friendly decision to drastically nerf these catch rates. For one incredible day, chucking balls at a fiery red circle was replaced with a glorious green, so you could quickly and easily snag that Rayquaza and get hunting for the regular spawns that came swiftly back on the menu. And speaking of menus, that leads me to my 4th complaint with Pokemon Go Fest 2023. Number 4, the menus. Many things worked perfectly during Pokemon Go Fest 2023, but if I had to single out one thing that didn't, it would be the menus. With a veritable bounty of research, special research, and collection challenges, it seemed to take the game quite a while before loading the research menu, which was exacerbated by constantly updating global research tallies and a photo gallery of players enjoying the day for some reason. So, for example, you need to check on that hour's collection challenge to see what you've caught and what you're missing, and with all this stuff and a phone that's cooking in the midst of a heat wave, you have to wait for your game to struggle to load a bunch of crap that you don't care about to begin with. Niantic, there is so much going on in the game already. Seeing some married couple awkwardly smiling like they're half embarrassed to be catching Pokemon at their age is not what we need. Keep the game's social media separate from the actual game for the sake of all of our phones when it is hot enough outside to boil an egg. And speaking of eggs, this leads me to my last compliment. Number 5, eggs and research. Let's be honest, most of this game involves looking at your phone and tapping, so any successes we attain are primarily derived from dedication and pure luck. One of the things that I really enjoy are those small things that require a little extra effort. So the week before GoFest, I arduously emptied out all of my eggs for the special 7-kilometer GoFest eggs. Then I hatched like a madman, and they did not disappoint. Getting shiny checks with guaranteed good IVs, as well as the regionals, was a big bonus that I feel like I created myself. The cherry on top was getting as many of the research tasks that did the same, which netted me a 91% shiny Oranguru. Number 5, eggs and research. But even though this was a plus, I have to add that it would be nice if they made this easier in future iterations. Half egg distance would mean more hatches, which would also mean more coin in Niantic's pocket.
You blew it, boy! You really blew it!
The researches were also exceedingly rare since, as mentioned before, with Pikachu being spammed everywhere, the Pikachu tasks seemed way more common. This was such a fun part of my experience, and I really hope Niantic refines this to be even better in the future. That's it for the 5 and 5, and I'll see you around, trainers.